He's peeing. Oh my goodness. Whoa, 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 whoa. You weren't supposed to see that. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, consider subscribing, like, comment, show me some love. You know, I'm out here trying my best. But on today's video, I'm going to be talking about the top 5 best pet reptiles. A little bit about me before we start. I've been keeping reptiles since I was 5 years old. I'm now 25, so 20 years of professional experience. For the last 5 years, I've been the manager of a reptile store down here in Miami. So I've kept a lot of different kinds of reptiles and animals in general. As you can see, I have some fish and some other things. I like monkeys, I like birds. I pretty much like everything. Based off of my experiences keeping reptiles and selling reptiles professionally, this is my top 5 for the best pet reptiles. So starting off with number 1, the bearded dragon. In my opinion, this is the king of the pet reptile industry. It is probably the best pet lizard you could ever have, best pet reptile. They are just super chill, like to hang out on your shoulder. Like, what more could you ask for? Care requirements, caging requirements for these guys. You want a glass terrarium because they do need some pretty warm lights. They're from Australia and they are omnivorous. So that means they eat a variety of vegetables, insects, occasionally fruit. Fruit's not the best for them. Too much sugar could lead to, diabetes and things like that. So I actually sold this guy to a customer maybe a couple months ago, and he's gotten huge. And look at that color too. Nothing screams exotic pet lizard like a big old red lizard that sits on your hand. These guys eat a variety of greens. So what I feed bearded dragons is stuff like collard greens, kale, zucchini, squash, carrots, dandelion greens, stuff like that. As for insects, the list of insects that I think are the best, crickets are probably the best and cheapest option and most readily available at pretty much every pet store, reptile store near you. So crickets are a great staple feeder for these guys. They're full of protein, and as long as you have the proper lighting, which is UVA, comes in basking bulbs, gets it nice and hot for them. They need pretty toasty basking temps because they're from Australia. And then UVB, which is what allows them to synthesize calcium and vitamin D into their bones, keeps them nice and strong and healthy. Without both of those lights, they will fail to thrive. So make sure if you're getting a bearded dragon that you do the proper lighting setup. Also, the wattage of the lights would depend on the tank that you get. But for something like this adult bearded dragon, 75 gallon 4x2 would be great. Stuff like that. For a baby, you can start them off in something smaller, 10, 20, 30, 40, grow them up into a bigger and bigger enclosure. My number 1 best pet reptile is the bearded dragon. Moving on. Coming in at number 2 is the ball python. So ball pythons come in a variety of colors called morphs. This specific one is called a pied ball python. He has a clear breakup in the pattern where it's pure white, and it's just such an exotic looking snake. They're very easy to handle, easy to take care of. They eat pretty much live or frozen rodents like mice or rats, appropriately sized based off of the thickness of their body. So something like this size would be eating maybe a big mouse or a rat pup or a small rat, something like that. The reason why ball pythons are such good pets is because when they do get startled, if they do get startled, they do ball up. Instead of striking or, like a cobra, which would be mad at you and it would go and try and bite you, I think you can own a ball python the entirety of its life and never get bitten by one. So I think that this is the best pet snake. Caging requirements for this would be maybe like the same thing as an adult bearded dragon, a 40 to 75 to 4x2 enclosure. And as far as heating goes, they do well with stuff like heat mats, if they are connected to a thermostat, so you can actually regulate the temperature exactly so you don't burn your snake. I find that stuff like overhead basking, especially in a smaller tank, would make the whole enclosure too hot and dry, which would cause problems with this guy and his ability to shed. So it's important for these guys that you do have a humid box or somewhere for them to go when they're looking to be cooler and moist. So in general, with all reptiles, I like to create what's called a temperature gradient and a humidity gradient. By creating two different microclimates on either side of the tank, we can ensure that this snake can choose whether he wants to be hot and dry, warm and dry, he wants to go digest his meal, sit on something warm, a nice warm rock, or he wants to go inside of his cool moist hide and seek shelter and complete his shed without being disturbed. But look at this guy. Ball pythons come in a variety of colors. I actually have about 7 of these right now, and they're all pretty much chill. Moving on from the ball python, we're gonna look at another lizard. So what I have here is a leopard gecko. So these have been a staple in the reptile community for a long time, and today I'm gonna offer a controversial opinion. Yes, the leopard gecko is a great pet reptile, but what I think is a better alternative is the African fat-tailed gecko. Look at how cute these guys are. This specific morph is called an Oreo whiteout. So his name is Cookies, and then I have another one, a female that looks the same as him, called Cream. So Cookies and Cream. In my opinion, I think they are a little bit more handleable than a leopard gecko. They seem to be much more chill, and I love the colors and morphs that African fat tails have. One of the main differences between the African fat tail and the leopard gecko is that these guys require a little bit more humidity because they're from Africa. Other than that, care is pretty much the same. Leopard geckos and fat-tailed geckos are insectivores. They eat crickets, roaches, worms, that sort of thing. You do want to stay away from some of the harder shelled worms like superworms because their exoskeleton is not so easily digested in such a small digestive tract, so it can constipate them. So main staple for these guys would be something like crickets, roaches, hornworms, silkworms, waxworms. Each insect has a different nutrition profile and is equally beneficial for your lizard. So in my opinion, African fat-tailed gecko, better than the leopard gecko. Care requirements for these guys, caging could be something like a 20 or a 30 gallon with a bunch of hides in there. Making sure to keep the humidity adequate and also providing an under-tank heater. Because these guys are nocturnal, they don't really like the overhead basking lights. It actually makes them close their eyes and they can't really hunt that well. Wouldn't have any lights on at night either, because that's not too realistic. In the wild, you know, it gets dark at night. They kind of need that darkness and a nighttime drop in temperature to be able to keep a healthy circadian rhythm. Number 3 is the African fat-tailed gecko. Coming up next on my list is the Western hognose snake. So if hissing doesn't scare you, I think the hognose snake makes a great pet. As you can see, they hiss, they huff, they puff, but they don't bite. They don't bite out of defense. Everything about this snake is built to bluff. They're known for playing dead in the wilds to avoid being eaten by a predator. They're not built to defensively bite. So for that reason, I think a hognose is a great pet. They also do not get that big. A hognose male could be about a foot long. The females would be about 3 feet long. Let's see if we can get some hisses in the mic. He's a feisty little bugger. All right, Cobra Kai, take it easy there. I love their attitudes. I love their feeding. They're so easy to eat. They eat, all of my hognoses eat frozen rodents, makes it super easy. Yeah, they're like little worm noodles. So I think this makes a very good pet snake and an alternative to the ball python. Okay, buddy, don't fall because you're trying to put a scene on here. They have those cute little upturned noses. I find that pretty much the only time you are ever likely to be bitten by a hognose is during feeding time. So be careful if you are feeding these guys, feed them with tongs. They get very excited around feeding time and may mistake your finger for a mouse. If that does happen, they usually tend to hold on a little bit, so it makes it kind of useful that they have this nose that you can just lift up lightly to unhook those little tiny teeth. It doesn't hurt. I've been bitten by hognoses before, always been a food response thing, never a defensive thing. So all that huffing and puffing to do absolutely no damage. So because of their little feisty little personalities, I'm putting the hognose at number 4. Coming in at number 5 is the crested gecko. Crested geckos are really easy to take care of. They are tree-dwelling geckos, so you want a more vertical tank than a horizontal one like you would for a fat-tailed gecko or a leopard gecko. These guys need to be sprayed every day as they lick the water off of the leaves. They're pretty easy to feed because they eat a fruit powder diet that you just mix up with water, make it into an applesauce, and see, look, he's licking. His mouth is watering at the thought of some delicious applesauce. But crested geckos also come in a variety of colors. They're pretty easy to handle. They do jump, so be prepared for that. They're tree-dwelling geckos. Another option, instead of the crested gecko, that I would suggest is the gargoyle gecko. They're from the same island as the crested gecko, the islands of New Caledonia. I think he's about to jump. He's preparing those back legs for a big jump right here. Come on, impress the people. No, I guess not. Oh, he just fell. He just fell. No big jump out of this guy. He's definitely really full off of his crested gecko diet. Same sort of care requirements as a crested gecko, a little bit more exotic, and these guys come in a bunch of cool colors. And I like their faces, they're pretty cute. Gargoyle / crested gecko coming in at number 5. I'm gonna show you guys some honorable mentions, but that's my top 5 list. I've got bearded dragon, ball python, leopard gecko / African fat-tailed gecko, hognose snake, and then crested gecko / gargoyle gecko. But there are some others that I still do suggest, so let's go check those out. My 2 honorable mentions are the boa constrictor. Here I have a sunglow boa constrictor. Reason why this didn't make it to the top 5 is because they do get pretty big. So for most people, it's not feasible. But I think they're pretty cool, pretty chill, an awesome snake. They're very intelligent. My other option is a tortoise. This is a sulcata tortoise. It's the 3rd largest in the world. So I mean, they're very personable. They make good pets, but they do get really big. So oh my gosh, and he's peeing. Oh my goodness. All over. But anyways, guys, that wraps up this video. Let me know if you liked it, if you want to see more stuff like this. Let me know if you have pet reptiles, and if you think I'm wrong about anything, if I missed anything that should be in the top 5. Until then, see you on the next one. Peace. I gotta clean up all this tortoise pee.